Welcome, everyone. This is our second day of presentations of the Female Leadership Mentoring Program organized by Africa ELTA in collaboration with EVE. In this program, eight selected classroom teachers were trained to receive a mentoring on public speaking skills for 3 months. If you are interested in learning more about this program, the information is posted on the Africa ELTA website and the selection criteria as well. All our speakers and presenters today and yesterday are classroom teachers. They are all females, and many of them are presenting for the first time. Today we have four presentations, and these are the final four presentations. Each presentation is 15 minutes, followed by 5 minutes for Q&A. So please feel free to post any questions you have for the presenters in the chat box or in the Q&A box. We will have time after each presentation to answer the questions. Without any further ado, I'm going to introduce our first presenter today, ma'am. And ma'am works at the Central Direction of National Education Ministry in Senegal. She has a master's degree in civilization and literature, and she has been to the US twice in student exchange programs. In her application for this program, ma'am said that working in rural areas in Africa is a problem because of the lack of access to professional development due to the long distance and difficulties in reaching to training sites. She said that attending this leadership program would help her discover new horizons and achieve new professional development goals. Ma'am is presenting today about empowering women in Africa through education, and she's going to inspire us all with the stories of successful women from Africa. We are looking forward to her presentation, and we are sure she's going to do a great job. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Amira. Good afternoon to all the attendees, all the assistants. Bonsoir à tous ceux qui parlent français aussi. Je sais qu'il y a des gens qui parlent français. Hope that you are all keeping well, and we are really pleased to be here today once again to present you our work that we have been doing with our dear mentors. Deidre, hello. So thank you, thank you for your supervision. Thank you, Amira, for the coordination, and thank you to all the other mentors, the mentee for 3 months we shared together. It was really good to have you around. Thank you. All right, now can I share my presentation?
Yes, you can start sharing.
All right. Just pray for the network because sometimes it's not depending on me, but the network. Hopefully, gonna make it today. Mm, all right. Just 1 second. There we go.
Do you have your slides open, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, you can share screen.
Okay. Is it showing?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
You need to press share screen after you open
Share
your
screen.
PowerPoint.
Okay. All right. 1 second. Yeah.
Okay,
Is it coming?
it's coming.
Mhm. Sorry, sorry.
Mm, we see your desktop, not the slides.
Oh, not the slide yet. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you
Uh,
can stop sharing and share the slides.
all right. Okay. Is it coming now?
We are waiting. Yes.
Slideshow.
Okay. Slideshow
All right.
beginning. Yes. Can you click from beginning and then it
Yeah,
will?
just network issue, but it's coming.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Coming now.
Yes. Now it's great.
Okay, so sorry for this network problem. And here is my presentation about empowering women through education in Senegal, my country. We're going to explore the problem. And here are the outlines, the introduction. After we have the situation, the young women's education in Senegal with reference to the other African countries, problem and challenges, what has been done so far, the solution and such the next step for the final point. I think Amira has dealt with who I am, my introduction. I'm from Senegal, so I have been teaching for 12 years now and actually posted at the Ministry of Youth Education in the Central Bureau. So my role in education was just deal with English at the college and high school. Okay, and the aim of my presentation is, as I did, to deal with the challenge and the solution for empowering women in my country. The situation for women's education in Senegal, as we can, girls are forced to leave school early because they have before they have finished their education, and the main reason are the poverty. As many developing countries, mine is not lagging behind, but we still have some problem because poverty cause that some parents take their children, their girl from school to help them in the house or to give them other purpose. The traditional and cultural beliefs and pressures are the is here as a religious or Islamic country very big issue. Some girls are not given the right to finish their schooling and they are married so early because they don't have want to have their girls taking the time to finish their schooling. So once they get 16, most of the time they are given to marriage, and this is the next point: early marriages, which is considered as a way for parents to keep their girls away from the modern society and keep them follow their mothers and grandmothers way. Okay, here we have some pictures of lactation, pregnancy, and so on. And right after, you have some example of the situation of other countries. The case of Ivory Coast, Tanzania, Uganda. In Ivory Coast, we have the same problem, like classes, poverty, which cause the early leave of girls to school. Tanzania and Uganda, that I have exchanged it with my fellows during the Koika UNESCO program. They just have the problem of sexuality at school, so they go as falling pregnant before they end their studies, and this once pregnant, they leave school, and it's a very big problem. And problems and challenges, lack of proper equipment in school and at home. This is due to the fact of the educational system, which is a little bit troubled by lack of equipment at school, especially in a remote area. They don't have computer room, they don't have power, teachers are not trained. So lack of ICT training because with the outbreak of the coronavirus, we have been trying to implement the online courses in the educational system, but not only it's not enough equipped, but also we have a lack of ICT training, which is a big trouble for that. And after that, the challenges, the family pressure, as I mentioned a while before, poverty causing parents to take their children out of school before they graduate. Okay, what has been done so far and by who? Some programs have been implemented to keep girls at school, such as SCOFI, a French program of 20 years old, Scolarisation des jeunes filles, starting from the primary school to university, helping people to get at the primary school freely without fees. The PIA program, d'appui à l'enseignement féminin, the French gender self power from of African women education, okay, which is doing a great job during in region mismatch at college, encouraging young girls to be scientists. Miss Science Mariama Girls High School, which is a school which is specially built for for girls education only. They are there sheltered and everything is taken care inside the school, so they don't need to go at home or do anything. Everything is done inside the school, and they have good results every year. And for the solutions and ideas, online lessons. Okay, as I mentioned at the beginning, are some of my projects that can be a solution to uh, maintaining girls at school, training on how to attend online courses, of course, by the trainee, the teachers first, and after giving the other girl who stayed at home the opportunity to continue their study. Special commission in local area. For me, if they can't move in towns or go to university to attend the school, their study, maybe we can try as teacher to go there freely and assist them to continue their study in their local area. They can't move. And right after that, create links with NGOs like UNICEF, FAICA, the US Embassy, and the British Council, as I have done. I am an example of those who benefit from the program of the NGOs or UNICEF or FAICA, which allowed me to continue my schooling, have new master degrees, and of course get new opportunity in my career. So why not the other teacher try the same thing with the programs that are often offered by the NGOs or online programs. Promote small and medium enterprises. This is just for the local or the remote area. If they are not in the town, for me, we don't have to wait every time to NGOs or to the government to come and help them. Maybe they can be shown the way to find themselves their own funding for their schooling, because right now the studies are expensive here in Senegal, or if you want to go abroad, it's almost the same thing. It's expensive, so we need money. So why not showing them so new way to get money by themselves and try to give the finance, the funding for their own schooling. Okay, promote small and medium enterprises, find funding to start agriculture and farming businesses. Why not? Because it's a very helpful there. It's a rural area, but people are coming from everywhere. Chinese people here inside the country to buy the peanut they get after the crop. So for me, it can be a good source of funding for them if they have their own businesses. Find partners for the sale of crops, conduct training workshops for the processing of local cereals. These are just my ideas. These are just my project, okay, to help them get busy in their side, in the place they are, and just try to find a way to get rid of the poverty. Because if they have their own income, they can be autonomous and go by themselves to fund their schooling. Find international cooperation for more visibility of their product, of course, which can stay here and have our own school. But if ever we can have the opportunity to go abroad, participate in programs, it will be a new luck for the development of their situation in their local areas. And the next step, my ideas, introduce girls, successful women, particularly from Senegal, to increase their motivation. And this, in this part, I just wanted to share my own experience as former girls, as lady now, as professional, female professional. At the beginning, it was not easy, but finally, okay, I succeed to get what I want and to continue my study because I find a way to fund my study alone. Yeah, at the first time I went to the US, it was alone, not with the help of my parents, but my own money because I have started to work. Okay, as a part-time teacher, I find money and I get my ticket alone. With the trip for Korea also, I just participate in online training and tried online programs that was offered through the platforms of teachers in Senegal. So for my other colleagues, maybe I would encourage you to be more focused in opportunities that are often given online. And for that, after my own experience as educated woman and successful role model for my students, yeah, we have spent 12 years ago together, and I know that they saw me as a model. So everything I told them to do, they were trying to copy it. So for the other colleague, I really encourage you to get closer to your students and tell them that it's something that is not impossible. They can make it possible if they do like us. Okay, try to find, show them, tell them what we have done so far to get in this point we are. Okay, the benefit of education. We all know them to create independence and build security for their lives. Of course, if you're not depending on your parents, not depending on your husband, you are really autonomous and you can do things and find your own project, fund them, and really realize them. An international association, let's work together. I mean, we 8 mentees, our mentor, why not the others? Why not work together and try to find solutions together? That's my idea. And here is the end of the presentation. What idea do we have? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the great presentation
You're
and
welcome.
for sharing ideas about teachers being role models for their
Yeah,
students,
yeah,
especially that you are talking about teaching in rural areas where students do not have access to a lot of resources, and
yeah,
sometimes the only resource is the teacher.
yeah.
So, like modeling and giving a good example is also important for our students. And
You're
can you tell us more about your own experience working with your students and how do you think you being a model and all you have done in your career so far has inspired them?
All right. One thing when I was posted there, I was so young, and many of the villagers asked me, "Are you a teacher or a student?" And after laughing, I told them, "Yes, I am a teacher." Yeah, and the student was so like I don't know, so amazed that they were asking me, "Have you finished your study? What have you done so far?" I tell them that I get my master degree before coming, and since that they say, really, is it possible that you are so young and you get a master degree and where? I told them that I have been to one of the best university of Senegal, Gaston Berger University, because I had really worked very good after the high school, and finally I reached the university, and I have spent there 5 years without any trouble, with the help and the understanding of my parents, of course. And after the university, I have been posted in their village and told them that I was there to help them and show them what I have done to get there. And after 1 year of teaching, I get a ticket for the US in a visitor exchange program. And and I go there. Also, I did so great because at the beginning it was so something new for me. I didn't know the direction. I didn't know how to move from a side, from a place to another. One day I just took the risk to go by myself, take my bike, and try to walk around. And by doing that, I get some jobs, two jobs that helped me a lot to fund my next trip, to fund my own career. Because when I get back, I went to the British Council to do some tests, the TOEFL test, the IELTS test, just for my to continue my professional development. Because for my other colleague, if some of the teachers sometimes ask me, Ma'am, how are you doing to get the opportunity to go to the US, to go to South Korea? One is just to invest in their career. Here in Senegal, we have good school, good training school. The public school is not enough. And if you are in remote area, you don't have the opportunity to go in the city and apply to. So do online classes. Pay. Don't wait for the government. Pay your own money and fund your own study. Because getting a master degree is not enough. Two is not enough. Because teaching is an everlasting process of learning. So we should not stop learning anytime. And when I went to South Korea, it was just in the platform of teachers. I got the call of application. I just apply and write my my topic and everything they asked. I replied, and finally I was selected. And for the ELTA also, I saw it in the platform. I applied and I gave you my reason, the reason why I applied, and I was selected too. So for the others, it will be the case for many other programs, online or abroad. Please don't be lazy. As teacher, we have to move and have the aim to go farther than we are today. If I finish this program, I will just go and apply to another program until I get a lot of certificates. That's it.
Wow, that's very inspiring, ma'am. And you told us before about your experience applying for this program because we
Yeah.
get questions from teachers who are interested in joining. What would you tell them about your experience applying as well?
All right. For this program, Amira, at the beginning, public speaker, because I can give you something. Maybe if you called my supervisor, the inspector, he would tell you, "Mom is good, but she never show up and take the floor during the cell meetings or present. I did not like have the courage to sit in front of people and speak. That was my problem. But when I started with my mentor, I explained to her my problem to speak in public. She told me, just okay, relax, do this, do that. And over these 3 months, even if I'm not the best presenter, I know that if I practice, I will be better and I will be a good presenter for sure.
You
And
are
I really have to recommend this program to my other colleagues. They are already asking, and I know they are really interested. So please, next time, don't take eight, but take more than eight. Why not 80 to give the opportunity to my fellows? Yeah,
yes, that's a good point. Thank you,
yeah.
ma'am.
You're welcome.
You are an inspiring presenter. You inspired us with your story and with your success, and you gave a great presentation today.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Amira. Appreciate.
Okay. I see all positive comments in the chat box, no questions. Uh, but if anything comes up later, we can ask
All
you the.
right.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Amira. Thank you too.
Okay, so now we are going to move on to our next presenter today, our
Yeah.
next speaker. And our next speaker is Abigail. Abigail is a school language teacher from Cameroon. She has been teaching for 14 years and is interested in teaching ICT to learners with limited resources. In talking about this mentoring scheme, Abigail said that she benefited a lot from this program. She said, and I'm quoting, I learned to master my composure and panic. I also learned how to work with several people from a distance. Our meetings were all virtual, and this helped me master Zoom use better. The ladies were very passionate and lively, and we had fun every time we met. End of quote. Abigail is also, I'm telling you this secret, is the designer of our event flyer today. And I'm sure she has many more skills that are unfolded yet. I'll stop here and invite you to welcome Abigail. She's going to present today about cultural tolerance in the classroom. Abigail, the floor is yours. You are muted. We want to hear your voice.
Can you hear me now? Okay, thanks. I was saying that I was not expecting you to talk about the flyer. Thanks for acknowledging. Um, the Eve and Africa ELTA mentoring program has been a wonderful one, and I want to say thank you to Africa ELTA for giving me the opportunity of meeting so many great ladies, great minds, great experience. We had so much fun, like I said, and so much love to share. Um, I'm called Abigail Ekango. I'm from Cameroon, and I'm an English language teacher in Yaoundé. I teach in the outskirts of the capital city. And my students' age range vary between 9 and 25 years of age. And the enrollment in my school varies between 80 and 150. This year, particularly, we did not have classes of more than 50 because of the COVID security measures. And I must say that I particularly enjoyed teaching this year because I grew closer to my students because they were not, I did not work in a crowded class for once. So maybe COVID did us some good. uh, that's not our discussion for today. We would be talking about the role of a teacher in negotiating cultural tolerance in his classroom. There is nowhere in the world where we wouldn't come across cultural diversity, and that's what inspired me to talk about how we could negotiate cultural tolerance in our classroom, because we meet cultural diversity in varied forms. People have several religions, several languages, several beliefs, several way of I mean, cultural diversity is rampant everywhere. And as a teacher, especially a language teacher, because language is one of the main components of cultural identity, I think we should be very much interested in helping our students, and why not ourselves, negotiate cultural tolerance in our classroom. So we're just going to go straight to our plan. We would be talking about what cultural tolerance is all about. We also will be seeing the benefits of cultural tolerance globally. We would see how important cultural tolerance is in the classroom. And at the end of this, I'll give you my tips on how I do negotiate cultural tolerance in my classroom. Um, Before we talk about the benefits of cultural tolerance, I'm afraid I've got no sight of the chat box. Maybe Amira is going to help me read. I would like us to make use of our chat box to please type just one word, which to us globally defines the notion of cultural tolerance. I lost my chat box, so I'll not be able to read. I'll be happy if Amira could help me.
Yes, I can read it for you.
Thank you. So I'd like us to type just one word, which to us defines the notion of cultural tolerance.
Okay. So we have love, empathy, understanding, acceptance,
Yeah.
respect, connection,
Okay.
love again, respect, acceptance, tolerance.
Okay. I think I can see my chat box now. Thank you, Amira. Compromise. Great. That's a nice one. Uh, yeah, respect, understanding. Um, Thank you so much for participating. I would simply add to all your wonderful definitions to say um, cultural tolerance um, has to do with accepting, respecting, appreciating the various diversities that we have around us, and that's just in addition to all the wonderful answers that you gave us. And let's get on to see how beneficial a culturally tolerant society is to us as human beings. First of all, when we are culturally tolerant, or when we live in a culturally tolerant society, there is peaceful cohabitation because we understand each other. There's no need to fight, so we have peace. There is greater solidarity because there is peaceful cohabitation. There is mutual cooperation. Peace and solidarity would definitely lead to mutual cooperation, and all of this is going to be help us build an economically robust society. That's the benefits of a culturally tolerant society in general. Now, particularly, let's come back to our domain of teaching. Um, how important is cultural tolerance to us teachers and our students in the classroom? It creates a comfort zone for the learners because everybody feels accepted and respected. Like I said before, the students are comfortable, they want to learn, and I the teacher as well, it gives equal learning chances to every learner. When everybody is comfortable, I think everyone has equal chances to learn, and the results of teaching and sharing is more objective. It helps learners to create social relationships. Um, the relationships that they build in a culturally tolerant classroom is practically different from one where there's no cultural tolerance, because we learn to love each other and we create bigger and healthy relationships. And of course, um, the learners that we build in our classroom are going to be easily integrated in the society because there's nowhere they're going to be bored, having learned to accept every culture like their own. Um, I'm going to share with you just now um, my tips how I go about negotiating cultural tolerance in my classroom. How do I do it? How do I help my students accept and be culturally tolerant in the classroom? But before I give you my few tips that I could make up for us, I'd like to say that you can't be or you can't adequately negotiate cultural tolerance in your classroom as a teacher if you're not educated on the cultural diversity in the environment where you teach. Most of the time, when we are posted to schools, maybe in our regions of origin or in strange regions, what we're supposed to do, which is wise, is to try to study the environment, try to know about the culture, the language, the beliefs, the taboos, the behaviors of these people. And this knowledge of the environment where we're working or where we're teaching is going to help us to nurture the students and help them accept each other, including ourselves. That's if we're strangers. So how do I go about negotiating cultural tolerance in my classroom? I create a safe space for my learners. This usually happens during the first day or the first week of classes. We usually introduce ourselves to students, and they want to know a lot about us. Now, the way you introduce yourself to your students is going to psychologically put them into a condition that's going to make the school year acceptable or bad. So what I do is I tell them, or I give them lots of information about myself. I talk about my status, I talk about my region of origin, my traditional dishes, my traditional ways, my beliefs, my myths. I mean, every important story that has to do with my cultural identity. And when I do that, I help them think about theirs and want to share as well. And when we all know from where we come from and learn to accept that, um, we are safe, and I think can learn better and respect each other. I also learned to pronounce students' names correctly. And of course, this would happen when I'm given a new class the first week of learning. It's always very challenging pronouncing names um, uh, because we might not be from that region and we might not know how to pronounce or using uh, the correct accent. So whenever I'm faced with this challenge of name pronunciation, I try as much as possible not to frustrate my students. I go towards those students I feel I can pronounce their names correctly, and I ask them kindly and politely to help me pronounce their names, and I learn from their pronunciation so I don't frustrate my students. And doing this encourages the others who might feel that some names are funny or particularly lengthy to respect each other's names and learn to pronounce them correctly. And of course, there is cultural tolerance in my class. I also create a multicultural group. Um, we usually put our students together weak and smart because we believe that the smarter ones are going to help the weaker ones. But I do the weak and smart mixture, and I also do the cultural mixture. I make sure they are not only weak and smart, but they are also from various cultural backgrounds because when they are put together to work, um, they don't need just the knowledge I'm teaching them at the moment. They use their cultural knowledge and background to give input to what I'm asking them to do. And I bet you when these students merge together from various backgrounds in a group, the work that they give us at the end is it's fantastic. I am an example of diversity. I try as much as possible to dress variedly depending on my means. I am happy to represent so many cultures because my students feel important. They feel happy when they can identify their dressing on their teacher. And I used to use my dressings for short lessons about culture and education. I would ask them, for instance, from where my dressing or from which region my dressing is from. And and it may also help me ask further questions about other dressing from other regions. And all this leads to or helps more in negotiating a culturally tolerant class. Inclusive use of teaching resources. Because we not only or because we don't only use textbooks to teach English language, we also use objects um, to pass across the messages that we want our students to know. And that's why I make use of very because that alone stimulates my students to participate in class. When a child, for instance, recognizes an art craft from his or her region, that child is particularly very active in class, and we also learn more about his culture. And maybe he's going to help others talk about their culture as well. Lastly, I encourage self-reflection and overcome stereotypes. I always make my students understand that we do not choose where we come from. We simply from there, and we should learn to accept it. And just the way we learn to accept from where we come from, so should we accept others and their cultures, and that being good and responsible human beings is respecting and accepting our neighbor's culture. And I help them to try to overcome stereotypes as much as possible. I tell them that we are not particularly bad because we come from a particular region, but because we badly brought up. And I prefer the blame goes to the family than to the cultural background. And when they get to understand all these, I think a culturally tolerant classroom is inevitable. Um, I've got so many other tips I'd love to share, but I'm caught up with time. This is all I could put for you, but I'll not go without um, leaving each of us with this takeaway reflection of Billy, which who is a Lakota teen. Speaking of the teacher at her high school, she says a bunch of teachers here, they think they know what's wrong with us, but they do not know. If people want to help us, they have to see what we've been through, not from what their own experience tells them. This abstract, I found it proper to put it here and at the end so we could reflect on how important a teacher's role in negotiating cultural tolerance is to the students. The way we take our students and the way we accept them culturally, I leaves a stigma uh, in them for life. And I think this is a great example. I would end by saying that when you are a culturally tolerant human being, you are happy. And when you're happy, you live longer. I think we should tell our students that. Thank you so much. That's all I could have for you.
Thank you, Abigail.
I'll be open to questions.
This is very helpful a quote that you ended with. And I have a question for you about talking about diversity, because some people, when we talk about diversity, especially if we are teachers working in Cameroon or like working in Egypt, and then our students are Egyptian or Cameroonian, like what kind of diversity are you talking about? Can you tell us more about this in your classroom?
Um, I'll be happy if you could repeat your question. I didn't get you quite well.
So, talking about
I'm sorry.
diversity, what do you mean by
Yeah.
diversity in your classroom when your students are coming from the same country?
I'm not talking about diversity. I'm talking about tolerance.
Tolerance of
But
cultural
I did
diversity,
make
right?
mention. Yeah. So
Differences
what?
in culture, you mean, right?
Yeah.
So, what are the differences in culture in your classroom?
Well, like I said in the introduction, diversity has it's a broad domain, especially culturally, because we could belong, we could be from the same region, we could speak the same language, but we don't have the same family background, and that too is an aspect of cultural diversity. So to me, I would like us to consider every item or aspect of cultural diversity, whether we're from the same region, whether we're from the same country, whether we're from the same continent, from the same I don't know. There is always an aspect of of individual identity which we need to accept and make our students accept, so that our classroom be a peaceful one. That's what I meant by cultural diversity.
Thank you for defining this, because this was one question from the audience. And there is another question about the which differences you have in your classroom that you have to deal with the most. Like, are they differences in gender or differences in ethnicity, social background?
Actually, we've got so many well, talking about the difference that I deal with the most, I'll talk about social cultural background, tribal differences, because if I'll take an example. Students from the north, for instance, are particularly stigmatized in my classrooms, um, because in the area where I teach, students from the north have parents who do um, mean jobs in quotes, and their classmates from the region where I teach tend to treat them not nicely, and I don't think it's fair, no, for any student to be treated poorly because their parents are known for mean jobs that they do. So I'm battling particularly with the cultural, or sorry, the social or the tribal differences in my classroom, to make them understand that it's not because strangers come to your region to learn that makes them, or that make them different or inferior to those of you who are there.
Yes. Clear enough. Thank you. There is another question about which techniques do you use to challenge stereotypes?
Which techniques I use to challenge stereotypes? Wow. Um, I focus more on self on reflection. I talk a lot with my students because I don't think there is any greater medicine than genuine talk with students, no matter how rebellious. At one point in time, when the students understand that you're making sense from what you're saying, I think they go ahead to follow your example. So I wouldn't say I have a particular technique other than the speaking I'm doing now. I talk with them in a motherly way, and I help them see that we are all human beings and have imperfections. So
Hmm.
that's my technique, talking or
Yeah.
speaking.
Yeah, it's great you are sharing your techniques coming from your experience with your students. And one of our participants is asking you about one advice that works against bullying.
Oh, bullying. It's very rampant in schools, and particularly in my classes, I'm a victim of bullying. So what I would say is that depending on the situation, the kind of bully we have, would either decide if we can talk to him or if we can take him to the administration for proper follow-up. Some students are so violent that no matter how you speak to them, they don't see you, especially when they take chemical substance, because it's very rampant as well in our schools. Students who drug themselves are fond of being bullies in classes. So I think as a teacher, you need to study and observe how is this student, is he so violent that I can't orientate him with my speaking, then I'll take him further to the administration and they would know how to follow him up from there.
Mhm. Okay. There is a question about how do you deal with differences when you are grouping students?
How do I deal with differences when I am grouping students? Actually, when I'm grouping students, like I said, I make sure that they are very different, and it's that difference that I use or that they use to give me what I'm asking for. So to me, their differences is much more of an ability. I'm not sure I understood the question, but I think I use their differences more because it helps them orientate or gives them the ability to express themselves more when they are very different in a particular group.
Mhm. And as you said also in your presentation, when you spend time at the beginning getting to know your students and also telling them about yourself, you know them well. So you can make these decisions
Yeah,
in the class accordingly.
yeah,
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, Abigail. We have no more questions, but you give us a very good
you're welcome.
presentation that was thought-provoking as well. And it's a very timely and interesting topic
Thank
to
you.
share with us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so our third speaker today is Irene. Irene is an English language teacher in a governmental secondary school in Tanzania. She has been teaching there for 8 years. She has a degree in education and she is a member of the Tanzanian English Language Teachers Association. Irene also talks about her experience in this program, and she says, and I'm quoting, Africa ELTA has been a great help to me on this journey. This association has given me a great opportunity through this program. She has given me the wings to fly high, the ability to realize my dream and make it a reality. This program has given me a chance to learn how to prepare a formal presentation as I have never given a presentation before. The program has helped me to believe in myself, and thanks to this experience, I will now be able to conduct training and workshops for my fellow colleagues in Tanzania. End of quote. Please join me to welcome Irene today, presenting about using games in the English language classroom. Irene, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. As you have been told, my name is Irene Maganga, all the way from Tanzania, and I'll be presenting on games in the English language classroom, making learning more active and fun. Can you hear me? Okay. So we are going to look at the definition of games, the reasons for using games in class, when do we use games, the advantages of using games, the challenges that teachers and students face when we are using games in classrooms, the role of a teacher when the students are playing games. We are also going to share some experience. We'll have the conclusion and then we'll have the Q&A session. So we'll start with the definition of a game. So what is a game? We all know games. As adults, we do play games. Our kids do play video games. We see our students playing games. So in a classroom setting, a game is just a support tool which is used by a teacher so as to reinforce, so as to complement his or her teaching methodology. Whether you are teaching using lecture or you are teaching using any other method, a game is just there so as to help you to reinforce the lesson, so as to help your learners to learn more easily and have fun at the same time. So as you can see in the pictures, the first picture, these are my students. They are playing a board race game. So this is an example of a game that you can use in your classroom. And on the other side, we can see an example of a word search game. As you can see, there are some words which have already been searched, like word, best, and others. So these are just examples of games that you can use in your classroom. Moving on, someone may ask, why games? So research said that boredom is the worst enemy in the class. So in order to make our students more active and make lessons more fun, we have to activate them by using games. So games are very important in our classes. There are various reasons we as teachers use games in class. The first one is for the students to learn new words. For example, when you are using a game like word search, the students are searching for the words. That means they are learning new words. When you're using games like spelling bee, the students are spelling some words. That means they are also learning some new words. Also, games are very good for pronunciation activities. When you're using games which involve speaking skills, then that means our students are improving their pronunciation skills. Also, games are very good for spelling activities. Games like spelling bee and other games, which a student has to spell some words, help them to know the spelling. As a result, they will be able to write some English words, either in class or in any other setting. Also, games tend to help to improve our students' understanding of their writing skills as well as speaking skills. We all know that as teachers, when you are teaching language, the students have to get the listening skills, they have to get the writing skills, the reading skills, as well as speaking skills. So when we are using games which tend to involve writing, such as word search, such as puzzles, our students are improving their writing skills. And when we are using the games which involve speaking, our students are improving their speaking skills. So there is also a question of when can we use games? So the choice of when you can use games only depends on the teacher. You can use games either at the beginning of the lesson or at the middle or even at the end of the lesson. It only depends on your time and your lesson plan. Also, as a teacher, when you're choosing a game for your students, there are some things you have to consider. The first one is the student's age. So if you are teaching, let's say, children, you have to choose games which are suitable for the children. If you are teaching teenagers, you have to choose a game which is suitable for the teenagers. And if you are teaching adults, also there are some games which can be used by adults. So when you're choosing a game for your class, make sure that you know the age of your learners and choose the game according to the age of the learners. Also, you have to consider the lesson time. When you're talking about time, if you have a lot of time or if you have a shorter period of time. For example, in Tanzania, we have periods of 40 minutes and then we have periods of 80 minutes. So if you're having, let's say, a period of 40 minutes, you can use like 5 to 10 minutes for game. But if you have like 80 minutes or an hour and a half, you can just use like 15 minutes to 10, 20 minutes for the games. So it only depends on the time that you're having with your class. Also, when you are selecting a game, make sure you do it according to the topic you're going to teach. When I'm talking about topic, I mean that it's either a grammar topic or a literature topic. So when you're choosing a game, make sure it goes hand in hand with the topic you're going to teach. Also, when you are selecting a game, make sure you also look at the space or the room in the class. If you have a class, have your board race, which tend to involve movement of students. But if you have no space in the class, there is no room, then you can choose games which involve more writing. So when you're using games in the class, there are several advantages of using these in class. I'm going to explain a few. The way I use games in class, I'm going to explain a few. The way I use games in my class, I tend to put my students into teams. So I'm having, let's say, team A and team B, and they are competing. When they are competing, at the end of the day, I will reward the team which has won. So this tend to motivate the students so that they will go and read, they will go and learn, so that in the next period, they will come back, they will practice the game, and as a result, they can win. So giving them games tends to motivate them to learn more and to do more activities. Also, when you're using games in class, your students tend to become more engaging. So when I teach and when I use games, most of the time, as I said, I tend to use teams so that they can compete. So when they are in teams, they tend to discuss, they tend to share ideas, they tend to come up with new ideas by themselves. So this makes them more engaged in the lesson. Also, games tend to build teamworks. When the students are working in teams, they are going to share ideas. As we say, if you are one person, you will have one idea. But if you go and share it with other people, you have as many ideas as possible. So when the students tend to share their ideas, they are building their teamwork spirit. So this also helps much in learning. Also, games tend to improve memory. So this is where the games are very important to the students. As an adult, as I am today, I do remember the games which I used to play when I was a kid. So this is also applicable to our learners. This is applicable to our students. When they are playing games in class, they will remember the games. When they are doing their national examinations, when they are doing their final examination, whichever way, they will remember the games. They will go back to the games. They will extract some knowledge and do apply it to their exams. They will also extract some knowledge and apply it to their real life situations. It only depends which kind of games they played in the class. So games tend to stay in their students' memories and it will be applicable in the future. So as we can also see in the pictures, these are my students. They are doing some teamworks, as I've said, they are discussing. So these are my students in my classes. So a person may ask, are there specific topics for games? So the answer is definitely no. There are no specific topics for games. Games can be used with any topic. It only depends on which game you are going to use. So for example, when you're teaching grammar topics, you can use games like board race, whereby students have to race towards the board and do what you have instructed them to do. For example, I like using board race. So this one time I was teaching adjectives and then I wrote some adjectives on the board, adjectives like tall, small, and so on. And then I told my student to race towards the board and write the comparative and superlative forms of the adjectives, and they did so. So board race is one example of the game that you can use for grammar topics. You can also use puzzles. We all know puzzles. We even have puzzles in our mobile phones. So you can use puzzles with the students, whereby the students have to fill the gaps in the puzzle you've given them. We can also use word search for the grammar topics. Also for the literature topics, we can use role plays, whereby the students have to act out what they have either read in a poem or in a novel or in a play. So these are examples of games that you as a teacher can apply in your class so that the students can become more active. So on the question of time, as I've said before, we can use games according to the time you have for the lesson. If you have a lot of time, you can use like 15 to 20 minutes for the games. But if you have a little time, you can just use 5 to 10 minutes for the games. Also, sometimes as teachers, we tend to use group works in the classes as well as presentations. So sometimes instead of using group works and presentations, if you have small time, a few minutes, then you can choose to use games instead of group works. So as we have seen, there are advantages of using games, but there are also challenges of using games in the classroom. So the first one is that games can be competitive. Sometimes the students tend to make these things too competitive. They take it too personal. So as a teacher, your role is just to tell your students to understand that these games are just used for learning. They are there so that they can learn and apply the knowledge elsewhere. So they just have to play the game and learn. They don't have to take it too personal. They have to learn. Also, as teachers, it is sometimes hard to find suitable games because, as we know, we teachers like to lecture, so this is not our culture to use games in class. But as I've said, there are some advantages. So as teachers, I advise you today to just go and practice using games in your classes, and you'll see the results and you'll continue using games, and you will thank me later. So as a teacher, when your students are playing games in class, your role as a teacher is just to be an observer and a judge. You have to be a fair judge and you have to observe. And be fair, give the reward to the team which has won. So you just have to be there, you observe what they are doing, and then you judge fairly. So below are some examples also of games which I've used in my classes. The first one on the left, I'm not sure if it is your left, but it's on the left on my screen. That is a puzzle whereby a student is supposed to fill in the boxes using the pictures above. And the other one is a word search game, as I've said. So these are examples of games. We also have a word search game as well as a board race game. So I learned about using games when I attended an online course on teaching English as a second language. And I said to myself that I have to try to use this in my class. Last year, I was teaching Form 2 class, which is an examination class in our country. I used games as many times as I could. Most of our students in Tanzania are truants. They don't come to school. So when I started using games in my classrooms, the students started to come to school. They started to come to my class. As a result, they started to like the lesson. They started to love the school. And we did several examinations whereby I can say they passed with flying colors in my subject compared to other subjects. So I am very sure that this passing the examinations and attending schools is a result of using games in my classes. I use games and a lot of, we say, technologies in the class. So as a teacher, I am advising you today to try to use games in your classes. Don't say that these are so hard to find and so on. No. Just try to use games in the classes and see the results. If they are positive results, continue using games. Don't prove failure before trying. So try to use games in the classes. So for the conclusion part, using games in the class can be challenging at times, as we have seen the challenges. But believe it or not, when you're using games in the class becomes more fun and the students are more active and the lessons becomes more memorable. As a result, I'm very sure the students will apply this knowledge in the future. So below are some links to some of the videos in YouTube that you can use. These are some of the games that I've used, but you can also go to YouTube and just search for the games in ESL classrooms, so games in English language classrooms. There are a number of videos that will come there. You just have to take your time and watch and pick the one which you think will suit your class. So thank you so much. There are also some references if you want to go and read more. These are some references. You can just go and read more on the games. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you a lot. And now you can ask the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Beautiful presentation. And it's a lot of fun as well to do games in the classroom. As you said, it keeps the students motivated and also it helps them build team building skills inside the classroom. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. There is a question about doing games and whether you give prizes to the students after they win in the game. Do you do this?
Yes, I normally give them some rewards. It can be sweets, it can be pens. It only depends on what I have at that time. I do reward them.
Okay, great. There is a question about COVID-19. Uh, since we had to make a lot of adjustments last year, and this is still continuous to our classes during COVID-19. Some of our classes in Africa had to be done online, others had to be done through radio lessons and TV lessons. So, did your approach to doing gaming in classes or playing games with your students change with COVID-19? Like, how did you do this when you had to sometimes not meet your students regularly? Some teachers had to.
During COVID-19, there were no mosques, but for those using visual teaching, there are some games which you can use for online teaching. So you just go and search.
Okay, so you are advising us to go and search online for online games, and there are a lot of resources, right? Um, but there is
There are a lot
a
of games for
okay, there is an interesting question about sharing with us one idea of an African game,
idea of
an African game, a game that is African, and that you had played it with your students. Can you think of any
I'm not
idea?
sure how to explain this in English, but we do have games in our country which you can also use to play them in the class. They are you can use them as in form of the Europeans do use spelling bee. So we are having our own games. In Tanzania, we have a game called Ukuti. So I'm not very sure how to explain this to you, but it is also applicable in class. The students can be spelling some words when they are playing this game. So I'm not sure how to explain this, but there are
Can you
some games
type
which
can you type the name in the chat box and we can all Google it and learn about it?
I'm not even sure if it is online. If it
Okay,
is on the internet, I'm not sure.
okay. But do you have some traditional games that you play with your students as well,
I've played a
right?
few. I've played few games with my students which are traditional. As I've said, I just can't explain how they are played, but I've played a few.
Very interesting. And this relates to the presentation we had yesterday about using local culture to teach English in the classroom. So this is a very good example of which. Looking at the chat box and the Q&A box, I don't think we have other questions. Thank you very much, Irene, for sharing your experience and your presentation. And we are going now to move on to the last presenter today and the last presenter in our program as well, uh, which is Nde. Nde is a teacher from Senegal. She is an active member of the Teacher Association in Senegal, ATIS, and a member of TESOL International and Africa ELTA as well. In her application for this program, they said that being a professional conference presenter has long been one of her dreams. And today she is very glad to be achieving this dream, giving a formal and professional presentation. She asked me yesterday why I scheduled her presentation to be the last one. But I have one thing to answer this, and I told her that save the best for last, right? So please join me to welcome Day presentation, and she's going to talk to us today about ideas to help students overcome their fear of participation inside the classroom. So Nidhi, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, hello everyone. I am happy to be here today with Africa ELTA and all the other colleagues who are participating. Thank you for being here. Okay, my name is Ndeikumba Baro. I am an ELT in Karang High School. Karang is in Fatick, Senegal. Okay, so today I am going to talk about how to help students. Sorry, let me start sharing first. Is it okay?
Yeah, can use the first slide and enable slideshow.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, the topic is helping students to overcome their fear. Why fear? I decided, I judged it necessary to talk about fear because it is uh, an issue that uh, people have in their classroom. Many students struggle with fear. Sometimes teachers know about that, and sometimes they do not know. So you can hear your student saying in the classroom, I am afraid, I, uh, I cannot talk, you see, my opinion will be rejected, etc. And you can see them moving a lot in the classroom, sweating. Sometimes teachers do not take time to see what is happening. But if you ask them the question, you will know what they are going through. So this is why I decided to talk about this topic. First of all, I will try to identify uh, the origin of these fears. And then I have proposed, or I will propose some suggestion to help them overcome their fear. Let's consider together this topic. We have 4 pictures and we have a quote on my left. This quote is from Zig Ziglar. This is the 2 definitions he gave to fear. He said that fear has 2 meanings. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we are listening.
Okay. Fear has 2 meanings. The first meaning is forget everything and run. So, for example, the first picture, if you look at the presenter, he is all ears, opening his mouth, etc. So he is afraid. We can say that he forgets everything, and the conclusion of forgetting everything is running from your responsibilities. When we come back to the second part of the quote, it is face everything and rise. Look at the picture under the man who was afraid. These are 4 people helping each other to get somewhere. So when they all get on this big stone, meaning that the stone is considered as an obstacle. So when they overcome their fear, they become free, as in the last picture. They are free, they are fearless. So now we are going to tell to the students that you have two choices. One is forgetting your fear and running, and the other is facing your fear and rising. I know they will choose the second one. Let's move. The objective is here, so you can take 1 minute to read it. Good. So the first thing I am going to ask you to do is to write in the chat box your answer about this question. What do you think makes your student intimidated in the class? Or what are your students' biggest fear? Amira, I think you can help me know what is written in the chat box because
Yes.
I have no access to my.
Okay, I will be reading it. Okay, fear of being wrong. This is one.
Being,
Wrong.
yes, wrong.
Speaking aloud. They
Speaking aloud.
afraid to make mistakes.
Yes,
Frightened to speak in a foreign language.
good.
Mm. Losing face.
Yes, that's excellent.
Being the center of attention.
Yes, true.
Being embarrassed.
Very good answers. Thank you so much, dear participants. So let's move and I will show you what I found. In many of my classes, some of my teachers have these fears. I start teaching in 2010 and I am in my 11th years. But I did never stop looking at my students, asking them some questions. What's your problem? What's wrong? And then this is what I discover about some of them, some of their answers. I can get from them an answer like fear of the teacher. Fear of the teacher. How can we be afraid of our teacher? This is a reality and it is something that is true. Some kids, you think that they are weak. No, they are not weak. They just have problems and sometimes they hide these problems. But if you go toward them, they will tell you what they are really suffering. And then the other answer from students is fear of taking the floor in front of their peers. Related to speaking, many students know something about the topic, but they do not want to speak. Why? Because in the chat box they said that they fear mistakes. They do not want people laughed at them as the third point, etc. So they avoid the other students laughing at them. And the other point that is underlined or was underlined is fear of long text. Long text meaning reading comprehension or long text related to exam and test. So when they see the length of the text, they are afraid. Why? Because they consider that they should know all the words in the text. And this is not possible. And my answer here is just try to understand. Just try to grasp the gist of the text, and then you can work without knowing all the words. And fear of long and complicated instructions. So here we have to simplify our instruction to help them better understand. Why? Because they are not native speakers of the language. So when you put it complicated, this is a problem at their level. And then we have fear of writing and production. Here, when we ask our students to write about things, they write. And sometimes they do not even write a word in the writing section because some don't know and because some don't want to write because they don't want the teacher sees their mistake, etc. etc. And fear of family pressure in case of failure. So let's consider these pictures. Here we have a student presenting, hiding his face. Number two pictures, we have a young teenager holding his forehead. Why is he doing this? This is related to stress. In front of his copies, he is just sitting holding his head, not knowing what to do. This is related to anxiety, test anxiety, exam anxiety. And then here, when we ask the student to stop laughing, I experienced this. I experienced this situation several times in my class. When I give the floor to a student, when he made a mistake or she made a mistake, the other student would start laughing. I say, "Hey, don't laugh. We are not here to laugh to laugh at each other. We are here to help them achieve what they are doing. We are here to correcting each other." So they are laughing at this boy, and it makes him ashamed. And the last picture is about reading too many things at the same time. This girl is surrounded by many books. Can we read all these books at the same time? This is not possible. This is family pressures, if we can say so. So you want to do many things at the same time. This is not possible. So we have to help the teenagers, our students, to overcome all these problems over stage. So how can we help students to alleviate their fear? So I will let you read this subtitle one by one, and then I will come back to them. You have just 1 minute to do it, or two. Okay, how can we help students to feel less scared? What I propose here is, as a teacher, I can help my student feel less scared. Above in the previous slide, if I say they fear, their fear may be fear of the teacher. So here, help them. Be close to the students. Try to ask them questions related to their studies, but also questions related to their real life problems. Some students may have some problems at home, but when you are not close to them, you will not know. Your teachers should be close to their students, giving them help and advising them. Okay? Here, review previous lessons. Revision is one of the most important things after teaching. After teaching a specific lesson, we can have some session of revision. For example, when preparing a test or when preparing exam, we can come back to everything we have seen, ask them their problem, ask them if everything is clear, then you will try to help them in your way. So the other thing is make them believe in their efforts. At the beginning of the year, I ask my student, I tell my students that uh, I am your teacher and you are students, but we are here to share. I can learn from you and you can learn from me. So do your best to believe in your own efforts. No one is going to help you. So everything that you have it by your own. So this is how I help them. I advise them to believe in their own efforts. And then at the same time, I help them to build self-confidence. So when you are confident, you can achieve many things. And then we have also the other point, which is making them use the target language. Now, in our context of large classes, we have different languages, mother tongues. We have French and we have English. It is a little bit difficult to tell the students to use only English. Even if you give them a group work, when you are not close to them, they will use Wolof or their mother tongue. So here we will we should encourage them to use the target language. Okay. And the other thing is, tell them that there are no threats. We are in a safe environment, and tell them that we are in a stress-free environment. You should not be stressed. So nothing is going to harm you. You have to learn to participate, to share, etc. And make them focus on positive thoughts. You know, thinking positively has an impact on people's life. When you think negatively to your achievement, to your life, at the end you became a negative person. But if a student think positively, he or she may achieve many things. Let them tell to themselves that this is possible, I can do it, it is not difficult. So you have to give them this kind of vocabulary, positive words to help them go further. And then the last point of helping them, bringing their fear down, is to tell them to relax. Relax how? Using games, joke, because we cannot teach all hours without even laughing, giving a joke, etc. You have to give some breaks, to play some games, some instructional games in order to help our students break with routine and things like that. And joke also are very important in our teaching context because as teenagers, they sometimes use need laughing, etc. and etc. The next slide is, apart from this suggestion that I gave to help them overcome their fear, we can also have other activities. But among the activities, I have chosen to talk about two activities. This is the first activities, which is a problem-solving activities. Problem-solving activities as a way for helping students to overcome their fear. How? How can students overcome their fear? By doing problem-solving activities. So here we have a problem. And I once come with the idea of asking them, what is your problem? And they are going to solve themselves their own problem. So here, I can say that problem-solving activity here is designed as a group activity that focuses on communication. When students exchange, talk about the problem, and find solutions, it means that they have moved from panic to calm. You know that even in real life, if you get some problems, you are panicked, you are stressed, you are anxious. But if you try to solve, if you talk to people, they will help you bring some change in your life. And then the second activity is reporting. Reporting, I consider it as a great activity to help students level down their stress. How are we going to proceed? Here we have news, we have television, we have magazine. So students are going, so they go home, they use the magazine or newspaper, they read. And once they have finished reading, they come up with their idea. So they are going to report to the classroom the news they have collected. This is a way of helping students to become responsible, to become great speakers. So once in class, they will face their peers. They will be in front of their peers and the teacher and expressing themselves. Sometimes they will autocorrect themselves, and after, at the end of reporting to, the teacher may bring some correction, some feedback. Okay, the next slide is, why were these activities successful? Here, there is here a picture, panic to calm, from panic to calm, and then there is here our my students. These are my last year students. This is a upper sixth class. They were sitting for the baccalaureate exam last year. And then what I do to answer to this question, why were these activities successful? These activities were successful because they made them gain confidence. If you look at the picture, you see that they have already worked, and there is the reporter who is writing what they will do after at the front of the class. They gain confidence, and then they can help them. This kind of activities can help them rise to the top, as we stated with the fear, face your fear and rise. Now, why were these activities successful? When we talk about reporting can initiate students to topical issues and real life tasks. You know, we are preparing our students not not only for not only for classroom tasks and activities. Now we are preparing them to face real life. So we prepare them for real life activities. These activities also help them to reduce their speaking anxiety. When they succeed to handle correctly these activities, we know that we have ready students who are ready to work hard to succeed in their tests and in their exams. The next slide is how to support our students before exam, sorry. So here, this is a picture of our upper six. Not one class, but this is L stream and S stream together. This is not our school, so we moved outside. Okay, this is the end of year exam, baccalaureate exam, and we proceeded to need analysis. What I call here needs analysis here is to ask our student what their problem is, and then we try to bring some solutions. So they are all exam class students. And what we did is this. So here I am explaining to them many things related to type of activities, to instruction, and to their behavior during oral examinations. Okay? And here they generated many questions, and the questions ranked from the simplest to the most complicated. And I myself and the other colleagues, we brought so many answers related to problems. And here, time to share summary of what we have proposed is that we as teachers, we should not enter the classroom, teach and go back home. It will be easy. So we have to ask our students about their feelings after the class, about their feelings when they see some situations, etc. We have to ask the question what they are going through in real life situation. We cannot solve all their problems, but we can help them alleviate them. We can help them alleviate their problems. And these fears must be eradicated. If not, they will not work as you will. Okay? Sometimes you can see them not giving interest to your lesson. You will say, someone is this, he is not motivated, he is not a good student. I can say that there is not a weak student. If there is a weak student, we have to work on on his or her weakness. How? Identifying their needs, identifying their fears, and then acting on them. How? By advising them, by bringing many solutions to them, and also by helping them. I mentioned parental the parents' family pressure, which is one of the most important things, and it constitutes a hindrance to students' learning. If you have some problems at home, this will have a bad impact on your education, on your learning. You can see a student who come in the class tired with many problems, and after the class he go back without you and asking him what happened. So we have sometimes to come back on what we have in class, what we share, and then try to help them be free like birds, work hard, and then succeed. Okay, so this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your active participation. If you have any question, I am ready to answer. Thank you so much. And I could not finish without thanking Amira, without thanking my mentor, Charlotte Jewelers, who did many things for me, correcting, advising, helping me. I really do not know how to thank you. I thank you so much. Thank you. Ready to have your question?
Thank you, Mbe, for an excellent presentation. Lovely. I love your tone of voice when you talk about the students because it's very important, especially at these times, that we acknowledge the difficulties that our students are facing inside the classroom and also outside the classroom, and trying to provide these safe environments inside the classroom for them to learn and participate without any fears or threats. I also particularly like your activities because you are doing a lot of group work, group activities, without really asking your students to depend that much on the teacher. So this is building student autonomy as well. And I think this is particularly important in our classes in Africa, since most of us work in larger classes, and doing group work and group activities is very helpful for both students and teachers. And here I would like to ask you about some of the challenges that you have faced when you have tried to do these group activities with your students. Are there any challenges?
Yes, there have many challenges at the level of organizing group work. You know, we have like classes with, if I may say so, no space. Even you cannot circulate in the class normally. So sometimes you set them into groups and you cannot even reach the other side of the class. And then the other challenges is noise. But I used to tell my students that we have necessary noise and unnecessary noise. If the noise is related to what we are doing, asking questions, saying, no, this is not the right answer, this is the right answer, I like it. But if the noise is related to any other thing that we can wait until we go out and discuss about it, this is unnecessary noise. Sometimes also students may use their mother tongue. I may be circulating between the rows and then hear them say or use their mother tongue, and I will come back to them as telling them that you can use English, but they cannot they cannot always use this language. Yes. The other challenge is the other challenge is with the other classes if they hear the noise. Sometimes you can go out and one colleague ask you, "Wow, your class is so noisy today. What was happening?" I say, "I am in a language class, and sometimes we practice or we conduct some activities that are related to noise. So we are deeply sorry." That's it.
Thank you for answering the question. And despite of the challenges, you have shared with us a very inspiring way for helping our students participate more in our classes and become more active. Uh, I'm reading the chat box and all our comments on the inspiring presentation. No more questions. And I think this is a good way for us to end our day today. Thank you, Nde, for the presentation again. And thank you everyone who have joined us today and yesterday for these amazing presentations given by our speakers. Now they are officially our Africa ELTA speakers, and we are proud of their work and the dedication that they have put in this program despite of all the challenges, from internet connection to busy schedules to meetings sometimes at midnight for some of you. Thank you for showing up always and for having a lovely and cheerful smile every time we meet. And without your dedication, mentees and mentors, I have to say that this program wouldn't have been successful. So I'm going to share just the final slide to say thank you to everyone. I'm very sad this is coming to an end now, but I'm very also happy and proud of all our mentees who have become our speakers that we are proud of, and also our mentors. I would like to share the slide with the mentors' names again to acknowledge the work that they have done in this program, the efforts that they have exerted with every mentee in this program are highly appreciated, and we would like to thank them all. I hope they are all with us now, so we can acknowledge each one of them. Thank you, Amanda, Doriana, Charlotte, Deirdre, Grazia, Marjorie, Sarah, Mercer, and Sarah Mount. Thank you all again. And I'd also like to thank Africa ELTA board. They have been very supportive from the beginning in vetting the applications and helping with everything that needed support actually behind the scenes. Thank you, Africa ELTA board. I'm also glad to see many of them here today. And the final thing we are going to do today is take a group photo. So I'm going to stop sharing and ask everyone now to please open your cameras so you can take a group photo together to celebrate our final presentation. Okay. Sharon, can you open your camera? Okay. Great. 1 second. Okay, I'll take one more using my laptop because it's clearer. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. That has been a great journey. Thank you, Fiona and Sue, again, for being the great partners as well. And we look forward to seeing all of you again in our future events at Africa ELTA. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Amira.
Thank you, Amira.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amira.
Amira, you've been the rock and the tiller.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amira and everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.